343 days. This is how long it took me from announcing the Q&A to actually do it. So today, Rukel, is the day. And with that, greetings freaks and folks, and this is Vlad the Lad, back with the second part of the 1000 subscriber special. If you haven't seen the first part, you can do this up here again. And before we start, I just want to say, yes, there will be more gameplay video. In fact, I have recorded a deck that I plan to masters with, and I will share this pretty soon, probably in a couple of days. But for today, this is the Q&A session that I announced for so long time. So because there weren't that many questions below my 100 subscriber videos where I announced this Q&A, there will be other questions from you guys over the time, over the month that this channel is actually doing videos and people ask questions. And yeah, we actually start off with Rukel, who was doing this really big and actually first comment, I think, about these questions, and I want to answer them one by one here. And his first question was this one. While you probably like metal, what subgenres and bands are your favorites? Well, it's really hard to say. But I think pagan metal and all this, what is more like folk-ish sort of, and symphonic metal, more like this, more like melodic metal, melodic death metal, for example. Arch Enemy would be something that comes to mind. I listen a lot to favourtie, but also like harder stuff like Heaven Shall Burn and Ill Disposed. And then you probably also saw it, I have shirts from Rammstein and Die Apokalyptischen Reiter, which would be the Apocalyptic Riders translated, which are also German bands. Pretty good ones at that. Next question is, what is your favorite region, champion, and deck? Well, in terms of region, I think there would be Noxus. Favorite champion in terms of numbers would be probably Renekton, because I played a lot of this David and Goliath deck. But in terms of flavor, it would be probably Swain. I do also play a lot of Swain. And as my favorite deck, it's really hard to say. I really love this Undead Inventors lists, but I have to say, when I really want to have fun, I most of the time play the It's About Time concurrent timelines deck that I created for some time ago. There will also be links there in the eye if you want to watch that. The third question was, what are your thoughts on Runeterra's unusual expansion cycle? I think what you mean by that is that they split up the region in 3 different parts. I mean, now they don't do this anymore because we have the 10 regions in total. But I think it had some good and bad. And to start off with the bad things, we split up archetypes, right? We have seen this in the past with dragons and other archetypes where they were incomplete and you couldn't even play them. So it wouldn't really make sense to release them in the first place because they were just straight up bad. And when they got released and made whole, they then were overpowered sometimes because they readjusted the already released champions or cards, and then they had to re-nerf it down there. So it was kind of a nonsense there, but this is how they went, right? In terms of cards, this is obviously a good decision because you would then have new cards every now and then and not like have a big chunk of cards, maybe like 200 or 300, I don't know what an expansion had as a whole then. But then you would have a really big thing and then the meta would readjust really quickly and people would get sort of bored more quickly, right? So it makes sense to split that up in that regard. But the better way would be to go have whole archetypes and whole things and release them as a set, as opposed to just splitting them up and just for the sake of, you know, just releasing this particular champion and this particular champion, right? Next question, how old are you? I'm turning 32 in several days. In what industry do you work? I'm an electrical engineer. And his last question, what was the performed surgery? Just in case you don't know me for that long, I had a leg surgery back in the day where it was sort of readjusted, like I had issues with walking and it was sort of overstretching, and they made it so it wouldn't overstretch anymore like my hand now does. So it would be straight and I could walk more properly. This would be the thing in a nutshell, but it was way more complicated. We had to do my hips as well and everything and my back, so it was a bit more complicated than that, but this is just to get an idea here. Next up is Mariaduck Brennybug, who says, Master Vlad, why your channel name is Vlad the Lad? Is there any specific reason? Yes, there is. Because I was back in the day playing Warhammer Fantasy, which is a tabletop game where you like paint figures and everything, and then you get them on the board and you can play with them in like real life, like not digital. And there would be this really badass guy who is Vlad von Carstein, and he is like the biggest motherfucker from all of these vampires that I was playing back in the day, and his name was Vlad von Carstein. So this was Vlad, and the lad was just because I was playing Overwatch, and in that community people called me Vlad the Lad for some reason. I don't know, maybe because it rhymes. And I stuck to that because I thought it would be a good rhyme, and Vlad the Lad ended up being my channel name there. Second question from him is, Master Vlad, do you have Twitch channel? Yes, I do, but I never streamed, and I probably will in the future. But in terms of numbers right now, it doesn't really make sense, right, to stream on Twitch. And also, I wanted to have sort of preparation. I said this for a couple of months now, but I really want to set things up properly to actually get going with streaming if I do so. But most of the time, I want to concentrate on my YouTube stuff. Next up is Kakoa, who asks, for the Q&A, what do you work? Well, I do work in a planning company, and what we do is we plan the electrical installation from a building, basically, and we do this mostly for the officials. Like, we do this for prisons, for example, which is most of the time our customer there, like planning prisons and all the security stuff in it that is connected to electrical stuff. But we're also planning for private dudes, like only buildings where people would live in. Next up is Eric Cartman, who's asking, are you German? Ja, bin ich. Then we have Gable asking, do you have a Discord server? No, I don't, because I am not too much into Discord, but I am part of a Discord community that I want to give a shout out here. I will put you down a link down below. There is a guy building up a Discord community, and I'm part of that. And yeah, I think this is a really good way to connect to other people within the Legends of Runeterra community there. And I will be, every now and then, I will be around there as well. Next up is Bob the Freak, who's asking, have you ever considered changing your in-game name to Vlad the Lad YouTube? Well, my in-game name is Grimo, and this is another alias that I have. But it really would make sense to call me Vlad the Lad, or at least Vlad, right? But for some reason I couldn't really change it, so maybe if you know how that works, you can tell me that in the comments down below. But I wouldn't add this YouTube thingy, I think, because I don't want to be my account name being that much about the YouTube thing, and I don't know if people would even look up for me if they would read YouTube there, so yeah. I would probably just call myself Vlad the Lad there. Second question from Bob the Freak is, do you think Yasuo or stuns is clutch in this meta, with all the decks being heavily dependent on attacking? And I already answered him in the comments, and I want to read that out because I think this is maybe sums it up pretty good, how Yasuo is not working really. Well, Yasuo just has the problem of being too weak, plus you build a deck around him with stuns, which only stalls the game if you don't even draw him to profit from his damage. So while stuns aren't bad in the meta against Taric Pantheon, etc., you don't really do a lot without Yasuo on the board. The price you pay to build a deck around him makes it often so that you have a hard time including your own win condition. So there's a ton of Banner City Swarm running around where stuns suck pretty much. That said, I'm sure his meta will come sometime. So this is 3 weeks old, this comment, but I think it really makes sense still, because Banner City Swarm is still a thing, and stunning one specific unit doesn't really do a whole lot. Because, like I said, without Yasuo on the board, you won't remove this unit even, and you lose tempo from that. You just stall the game some more, and you don't go anywhere from that point. Then we have Gigakuma, who is asking, has anyone made a deck that draws out Hexite Crystal with Scattered Pot? No, but it's actually a pretty good thing, and I read this comment, I wanted to build that 6 months ago, and then I just forgot it, so I revisited this now, and I probably will do this now. Hong Song Do asks, what about Yuumi and Zed? Well, Yuumi and Zed would probably suck pretty much, because they are both 3 mana, and the second thing is that you lack blockers most of the time with Zed. And if you put Yuumi on Zed, well, yeah, you double his stats, but you need to connect it with a keyword, right? You need to elusive or overwhelm on the Zed to actually make use of the stats, otherwise it will just be chump blocked, and this feels pretty bad. So with this region combination, you could then do Ionia with Targon or Ionia with Bandle City, and both of them have a hard time with giving those keywords that you need, right? So I think in the best case it's a tier 3 deck or somewhat around that if you build it really properly. Milex asks, hey, can you do a Vi deck, please? Yes, I already did a Vi deck and I will link it up for you here. I included her in my Sneaky Pantheon deck, which is still a, pretty good brewing, I think. One of my better ones, for sure. Nick Guitarist asks below one of my videos, seems like a really fun deck. I want to spend a lot of resources to make it, but should I wait for the patch notes first? Yes, you should always do that, because if you are more of a casual player and you don't have that much shards like others of us do that have no time, that have no life rather, and they spend so much time on playing, or they play for so long time, they will have all the cards. And if you have limited resources, you should definitely wait for specific patches to build a deck, because there are patches which will just totally kill a specific card, and if you already know from the community that this change will happen, for example to Poppy or others, you should definitely save your resources and build another deck then. Shaz Blazer asked for the attach units. I wonder how many units you can attach to a unit. And back in the day I answered the sky's the limit, but in fact you can only attach one unit to another unit. So if you want to reattach the other, you will get the first attached unit back on hand, which is probably balanced, but yeah, not that much fun. Token Black Kid asks, if you don't scream war with Cyan when he levels up, are you really playing the game? No. And that wraps up all the questions that you guys had over time. Thanks for checking this episode of Q&A. Maybe there will be one in the future. I won't promise it anytime soon. But if you have any further questions that you want to have answered, you can leave them in the comments down below. Let us connect there a bit. You know, this is my favorite region where we both connect. So that's that. Stay tuned for the gameplay video with the deck I climb to Masters with. And until then, you stay legendary. Vlad out.